Welcome to The Executive Appeal, the show for CEOs of early 8-figure companies who feel like the business only moves when they push. If you're running a $10 to $25 million company and every big decision still rolls up to you, your leaders are smart but misaligned, trust is thinner than you'd like, and you're tired of being the hero that keeps everything moving, this is the room for you. I'm your host, Alex D. Tremble, CEO of GPS Leadership Solutions. I help CEOs see exactly where their own leadership is bottlenecking speed and trust, and then install one clear leadership operating system so their executives take real ownership and the business can run fast without them in every fire. Each episode of this podcast has two parts. First, we spotlight the guest, their story, what they built, how they think about leading their people. Then we get honest about what's still hard at the top, where things slow down, where trust and ownership break down, and what they're doing to fix it. No theory, just what actually worked in the room when the cameras were off. Now, let's meet today's guest. Siri, my good friend, how you doing today?
I'm good, Alex. How are you?
I am living the life. I do have to just call out really quickly for the audience as we get going. It was hilarious because this morning, as I was preparing for this interview, I'm saying Siri, and my phone picked up, the Siri automation system. And then you said, as you were getting ready to jump on here, you're saying something about Alex, and Alexa picked up. So we have very uniquely tethered connections to technology, you and I.
Yes, we do. It's very rare to find someone like that, like a counterpart. And we have to keep reminding folks, we are the originals. I am the OG Siri and you are the OG Alex. So let's not forget that. Technology comes and goes, but we people, we are the foundation man and we are there staying strong, representing
We,
our names.
we could be done for today. That is all everyone needs to understand about today. It's just we are the OGs and just go with it. So yeah, everyone, great seeing it. Madam, you're such an amazing leader. I had the opportunity to watch and listen to many of the conversations and discussions you've been on, online, and then your posting and your writing, and obviously you've reached a level that many people aspire to reach. Serving as a VP of U.S. Global Technology Operations. I'd love to understand, who are you? Again, VP title aside, all that aside, if someone just to ask, who are you? How would you respond?
These days, last year, I think I came across this new word called multi hyphenate. That's what I think I
Mm,
am. Because it was so hard to fit myself into one mold. I do a lot, but I love doing a lot. That's the difference. I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm burdened with so many. In fact, I volunteered and took on so many roles, so many positions that takes so much of my time. And I felt like, and I find myself, I don't have to say I wear multiple hats. I can now confidently say this new word. I am a multi hyphenate leader, but I'm also a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend. I mean, all those matter much more to me than that's the basis of humanity, right? So I would start with that. And my day job is a VP at GTO at a company called an awesome company called CGI. I think this is the longest I have ever stayed in a company. I recently completed 11 years because of what CGI represents, the beautiful culture we have out there. On top of it, I am also the founder of Women Executive Circle. It's a networking group created to bring senior leaders together, C-suite, VP, and such. It's purely a peer-powered network. I am on a couple of boards. I am on the board of directors supporting ECHO, and another awesome organization that you need to look up, Alex, especially since you are in the same
Absolutely.
ecosystem. And I would love for you to invite you to attend one of our ECHO events in the coming future. It is a nonprofit whose primary goal is to support entrepreneurs, period. And the entrepreneurs can be a high schooler, can be an adult, can be someone who is doing it as a second job, or pursuing a passion project. But remember the struggle when someone is starting out and trying to figure out, what do I need, what do I need to do it the right way, what are the legal, financial, and other marketing implications. It doesn't matter if you are an entrepreneur. If you are looking for support to be successful, there you go. I'm also on a few boards as trustee at SSMNC, and I'm also on the board of advisors for NC Tech, another cool organization that I think I need to make introductions for you. Something that is supporting the North Carolina ecosystem. It supports corporations, government entities, again, entrepreneurs, founders. It's a mix, but their goal is to bring the NC technology companies and organizations and great people like you and others together to see what we can do to support them, and also improve the economy of North Carolina. That's something integral and crucial for each and every one of us to do. So there you go. I think that answered what you were looking for.
So it you are truly multi hyphenated. Um, and and the I fully assume the reason why you have had the opportunity to have all these hyphens. Um, because the reality is that not everyone who wants to do these things are invited to do these things and can maintain doing these things. And so my follow-up question for you is, how do you do so many things, and I have to believe, I'm sure, is a high quality level. How do you determine where to invest your time and energy to, again, to produce these exceptional results across all these hyphens?
Oh, you should come and check out my home. The if you're excelling somewhere else takes a hit, right? So that's what's happening. And but yes, to your question, jokes aside, it does take a lot of energy. It does take a lot of time, but I also learned to time box it. I used to, maybe that is maturity, sometimes lessons learned are the biggest teachers. Failures are the biggest teacher. I almost had a
Mhm.
burnout in my late 20s because I was glued to the computer 24 by 7. In fact, I was the problem solver. If there was an issue, that nobody can solve, it used to come to me. And at that time, again, immaturity, I thought that was a great thing. Oh, I was
Yeah.
like, I always wanted to go and solve the problem, and I enjoyed doing that. Of course, it's like, how you go on a roller coaster ride. Some love it, some hate it, but you do get a high, right? When you're doing going down. And for me, finding a solution for any problem is what makes me happy. So I
Yeah.
used to enjoy it. I never complained it, but I never said no. I never realized I could say no, because I grew up in India and I studied in a Catholic school, a very, very rigorous Catholic school. And, I always loved to be the topper. So it was like, the competitive mindset was instilled. And, hard work came easy because in the end, sometimes it's the foundations pave the path. So while we are here, I want to give a shout out to my school, Fort Catholic High School. It's an amazing, amazing school. It was run by both the British administration that left India, but they had that presence here along with my Indian teachers, and that medley was an awesome culture that I think it not only helped me, it helped pave the path for many of my friends, students who were part of that ecosystem. But getting back to the story, I did not realize I could say no. I didn't even think of saying no. And I used to wear it like a badge of honor. Oh, there's a problem to solve. And, people are coming to me. Let me go and do it.
Yeah.
And my body started waving the white flag. I did not. And, sometimes when we look back, I and my husband, we both think how the trying to not use the words that you need to bleep out in your podcast, but
Oh, there's no bleeping here. Whatever words you want to use, we're good.
we were like, what were we thinking? Why did I mean I almost had to end up almost was scheduled for a spine surgery because I was
Yeah.
working so many hours, and no matter how much of a good posture I used to maintain, when I'm engrossed in work, I had this tendency to lean into the monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never realized until my neck started acting, and the ensuing. There were days when I could not lift my left hand, but I was typing with my right hand because I had to solve the problem. I mean, the Singapore team, if they're stuck, they used to come to me because I used to work in the US time zone, Zurich, the Switzerland time zone, the Singapore time zone. So it's not like I was working those time zones, but those folks, when they are
Oh yeah.
stuck, I was the 911 call. So I had to wake up, and it used to be crazy hours until my health took a toll.
Hmm.
And one of my the ensuing follow-up visits with a spine surgeon, he said, like, if you are going, can't you take a break? Is the simple question that he asked.
Yeah.
Because if you can't take a break, next time you come, there's nothing else I can do but scheduling a surgery date. And remember, I was not even 30 then.
Yeah.
It was a wake-up call. More than the surgery, that simple question that the doctor asked, can't you afford to take a break?
Yeah.
I mean, I and my husband always think, why didn't we think of that? I mean, to be honest, we were in a position where I could afford to take a break
Hmm.
financially because my husband was working. So it's not like thankful to God. I know so many of uh,
Hmm.
folks
Hmm.
out there don't even have that luxury.
Yeah.
Uh, but the thought never came because we were like burrowed in, solving, and doing
Hmm.
what needs to be done. And that too is the wake up call that made me realize I took a break. I followed so many holistic options, focused on my health, focused on I lost 50 pounds because I can't.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I feel like they're coming back, but at that time, I focused on my health, eating well, making sure I get minimum of 10,000 steps every day, doing strength training, and all those. People would think, oh, when you're already busy, including this would take more time off your
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah.
But that is so counterintuitive. The more healthy you are, the more stronger you are, the more focused you are on making those healthy choices. And I don't want to use the word work life balance because in this day and age that doesn't exist. I would call it work life integration.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter. Then you know how to time box it. You know how to listen to your body. You need to listen to your signs, what your body is saying. If no matter how much the fire is burning, it's simple. Like the analogy that if you get on a aircraft, the hostess, when they do the safety
Yeah.
presentation,
Yep.
they
Yep.
say before you put on the oxygen mask for your kids, make sure you put it on yourself first.
Hmm.
As a mom, it hurts. I mean, as a mom, any mom out there or
Yeah.
any parent out there would say, oh no, my kids come first before me. But maturity says you can do a better effective job by taking
Yes.
care of yourself so that you can take care of your kid in the aeroplane. Same thing with what I am doing. Whatever whatever endeavors I take on that gives me joy, also make sure I prioritize my physical and mental well-being. And that is something my teams, I'm pretty sure my teams hate me because I keep saying, repeating this like a non-stop, deja vu, or that repeat button on a tape recorder, if
Hmm.
you even know what tape recorder is.
You and I both know it.
I didn't think so, but I thought it's my generation thing. But glad to hear you know
What?
it.
I know I do look young. I'm not gonna knock it. You know, As you shared that, I've shared many a times that, you know, one of the biggest motivators for me, that it wasn't a healthy motivator, but it was a motivator that kept me moving forward, was trying to accomplish, quote unquote, a lot, so that my biological father, who left when I was a couple days old, would want to be around me. I always just felt like if I could just
Yeah.
be good enough, he'd want to be around me, um, which never happened. But I
He didn't deserve you. Let's put it that way. You
he
know,
did
he
not
didn't
and
deserve you.
does not.
Yeah.
Um, I A part of that story I've never, I don't believe I've ever actually shared ever on camera, but also with very few people. I still remember when I was probably maybe 17, 18. So I was still in high school. I still remember. So again, then I still was pushing myself all the time, just to do better and better and better. And I played football and worked and all that. And I remember one night I was driving. It was late one night. I was driving, and I was just, I didn't have words for it then, but I know what it is now. Like I thought about flipping my car. Like I was driving down this road. We lived in the desert, and I was like, man, like if I could just flip my car right now and it just ended, like would it be easier? Um, and and then every few years, and my wife would look at me because she knows this about me. Like every few years, I just have this freak out. I'd freak out. I'd be depressed. I'd get sick, and it happened so often. Like again, like every 3, 4 years, it happened. I just accepted it. Like, oh, it's just part of who I am, you know. And it wasn't until recently that I learned, like, oh shoot, like that's burnout. Like I'm pushing myself way too hard all the time. And I finally implemented into my life, every 90 days. And again, I know I have this ability because I've run my own business. But every 90 days, I take a week off, just take a week off with my family. And then once a year, we take a month off, and we'll travel, do whatever we're going to do. Um, but man, like how many years did I go through literally just freaking out and being depressed and not being able to move? And it's weird, to your point. Like there's so many leaders. Again, I work with primarily now CEOs, um, but even when I worked with the VPs, SVPs, and so on and so forth, and chiefs, they were so adamant about making sure their team did not burn out, but them themselves did not give themselves that out, the time, the space to step aside, to breathe. um how I kn- I know that I can hear you saying it to your team. Like what has been hard for you still, is it still hard to give yourself that out, to take some time for yourself, or is it just like now that you've been doing it so long, it just is, you know?
Yeah. I made it a routine. First of all, sorry you had to go that, and thank you for sharing your story with me. I hope no kid, no human being in the planet has ever have to go through those that kind of scenario, and it kind of reinforces me. Your dad didn't deserve you, and the world is in a better place because of people like you. So I'm thankful our paths crossed. I'm thankful you reached out to me, and we decided to continue the conversation. And I love what you're doing. The 90-day reset speaks volumes. The yearly once reset speaks volumes. Yeah, because uh, we are going to. We don't know when life takes a turn. Uh, I think it happened to me thrice in my lifetime till date, where I did not know I will make it to the next day. I won't go into details, but
Mhm,
complications,
mhm.
an accident, a misdiagnosis of an MRI report.
Yeah.
And there was a surgery that went haywire, which thankfully, God's grace, I'm back here. But it also made me realize it's just not the burnout, it's, those moments like that, those give you the clarity. And we do absolutely the same thing. In fact, we are just back from a spring break trip with my kids, with my husband, and I told them, we are not going to leave you any inheritance. Our inheritance that we are going to leave is these travel memories. We show them the world. In fact, coincidentally, on the trip, we were counting how many countries they visited,
Yeah.
and both of them till now have visited more countries than their age. So, I mean, that is something, I and my husband were like, oh, this is something we need to be proud of. I told them, go
Yeah.
and take loans for your college, don't count on us for that. Count on this memories for themselves, for ours. I mean, travel is a passion for both me and my husband. And, at one point of time, I think before kids, I think almost every weekend we explored all of US. we were never home. We it brings to light when you go explore and see, how the world operates, how the other cultures are. Of course, within US, everything is the same. Unlike from India, where I come from. But to be honest, I'm at this point in my life, I'm here in US more years than I was ever in India. But there was one thing in India. Every state was so different. Every state speaks a
Mm.
different language, wears a different kind of clothes, eats different kind of foods, and it is essentially like going to a foreign country. If you just drive 8 hours, you go into a foreign country kind of mindset. But I used to love that. I used to. It's just not going and looking at the museums, not just looking at the tourist attractions. I like to take some downtime, go to a cafe, order something, check people out, how people are milling about. Like, every culture has so much fun to learn from, so much to observe. And there are some places where you see the history intact. In fact, when we went visited Prague, I was like, I think that's one of the cities where the history, it was never bombed during those world wars. So the history was preserved over the centuries. I don't know, those things make me happy, and I'm hoping I am passing that to my kids. And like I said, prioritizing ourselves. And, we decided we are not going to wait for retirement
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that travel. So, one fun fact about me, like as of now, I visited, I think, 41 or 42 countries till date. So,
Hashtag travel goals. So you and I have a lot to talk about when we log off, because that is the goal for us too. My wife has a goal for my boy before he turns 18. He's been over 18 countries.
that
So
would be a good goal to have.
we're working on this. And so when we get back, we're gonna dive into this leadership question. So thank you so much already. This is awesome. If you're a CEO in that early 8-figure range, quick question. Do you ever feel like you have a good team, good people, but things still slow down unless you get involved? That's usually not a bad team problem. It's a you as a bottleneck problem. And most CEOs don't see it clearly until it's already choking speed, ownership, and execution. So I put together a quick tool called the 5 CEO Bottlenecks Slowing Your $10 to $25 million company. In about 10 minutes, it shows you where you're personally slowing the business down across strategic clarity, decision speed, delegation, trust, and communication, and which one bottleneck to fix first over the next 90 days. If you're watching on YouTube, scan the QR code on the screen or go to gpsleadership.org/scorecard. That's gpsleadership.com/scorecard. If you're on LinkedIn or Instagram, just comment scorecard below and my team will DM you the link. Once you've scored yourself, you have the option to book a free 15-minute executive leadership diagnostic call with me. We'll walk through your results, highlight where you're most likely the bottleneck, and tell you straight whether a deeper Executive 360 snapshot makes sense for you right now. So if you suspect you might be the ceiling on speed and ownership, comment scorecard or head to gpsleadership.org/scorecard and start there. See ya. So I love to get into this idea of leadership. There's 2 things you and I have talked about. Let's start with the first one. Um, there's this concept of right versus right decisions. I am consistently telling people it's very easy to make a decision when there's a right decision and a wrong decision. This one is wrong. Don't punch your employee in the face. This one is right, right? Those are easy. Um, but when you have decisions where both either way you go could be right. It could be right to focus on the individual in the situation. It could be right to focus on the organization or the group in the situation. It could be right to focus on the merit, someone's particular skills. It could be right to be focusing on someone's particular loyalty, how they've been there, they've been committed. Um, there are times when you, as a leader, have to decide um, which right decision to go, knowing that the other side is going to be negatively impacted potentially.
Yeah.
I'd love for hear from you. Like, have you ever had those types of situations? And what is your thought process? How do you decide which direction to go?
Are you kidding me? I mean, in fact, I think this is the leadership dilemma across the world in this era, in the few years, ever since AI uh, became a big, you know, the most normal thing, the most, it shows up everywhere. There is no conversation where AI doesn't weave in. So, there you go. I conveniently brought AI into our conversation too. So, not only that, there are other factors, what's happening in the world. There are so many things that are different in this era compared to past. Not that I'm saying it was easier in the olden days. Each decade has its own set of challenges, but it is getting worse and worse in this particular decade because there are so many things that leaders are trying to grapple with, which was never part of our
Hmm.
thinking, part of our ecosystem in the past. And to your question, yeah, right versus right is more common these days. And one thing I look at it is, I'm pretty sure each one have their own mindset, but when I look at it, I try to take my emotions out of the picture. I try to take a step back. There is this term that I heard from my friend Scott Eplin, the view from the balcony. He says if you are in on the dance floor and you are getting engaged, you are in the middle of chaos. You don't know. Sometimes you might be looking at one set of one lens, looking at what's happening around you, right next to you, but you don't know what is happening in the outer
Yeah.
perimeter. But if you look at that from a balcony view and look at what's happening in the dance floor, you see people colliding or people going, people weaving in, what is happening, what is missing.
Yeah.
And taking emotions out, which is really hard because I am a very empathetic person, I'm a people first person,
Hmm.
and sometimes that makes it even more tough to sleep some nights, especially when you ever have to go through a reduction in force exercise that is inevitable in this day and age. Na- we always, any leader, we
Yeah.
always say, try our best to never make it happen.
Hmm.
That's our primary goal. But having said that, I went through that in my career, and it makes you lose your sleep because you
Yeah.
care for the people. But like I said, you have to keep your emotions aside, deal with it when the time comes. For the action, for the problem, for the solution, what I personally do is take a step back and look at it from a holistic view. I also look at, making sure the decision we make is always in alignment with my core values or
Hmm.
with my company core values. That is our North Star. I never deviate from that.
Yeah.
Even though it might be a tough call, sometimes you have to listen to your heart, which says what is the right thing. You have to look at the core values that you have designed for your system, for your company, for your from your personal perspective
Yeah.
to align with that. And even though it might sound hard, you have to look at what caused the minimal damage to your ecosystem, to your
Hmm.
team.
Hmm.
Sometimes saying no, I'm not going to do this to save one person's role might think you might eliminate the whole team.
Hmm.
There are scenarios like that because you want to stand by principle, and the principle everything feels right, but then that means multiple jobs, multiple folks who depend on you to ensure you're going in the right direction um, will be impacted. So as tough as it might seem, you have to do what is right that aligns with the company's or personal core values, that causes minimal damage,
Hmm.
and that can conform to what the world is looking for, or where the world is trending in this day and age. There's no magic bullet that solves all the problems in such scenarios.
No, I love. Thank you so much for giving such a thoughtful answer. Especially 'cause like I said, these are not easy things, and there is. I always have to remind people that emotions are their data, um,
Hmm.
but they're not necessarily fact, right? And
Yes.
those two things need to be very clear. Those two things are very separate. There is data, you can consider it, but it doesn't mean it's fact. Just because you feel something doesn't mean
Hmm.
that's the case. So I really appreciate you bringing that piece out. And then a follow up question, and I want to make sure we squeeze this in before we start wrapping up. I speak to a lot of amazing leaders such as yourself, and on paper they they're they're always talking about how just amazing their team is. Um, I'd love to hear also like what's still hard today. Like you've been leading for a long time. You've multiple organizations and teams, and what do you feel is still hard about leading? And where do you think, do you ever feel like you're still in that bubble? This is not maybe also a separate question, but how do you make sure you don't stay too enclosed in the bubble where you're not getting the information that you need to get in order to make really good decisions? Because you're the leader, and people don't always, many times, most of the time, people don't give you the pure information. They give you a perspective that's not going to get them in trouble, generally speaking.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, no,
yeah,
that's
what's still
fine.
hard, and how do you make sure you stay out the bubble?
Yeah. Again, I unfortunately need to bring AI back into the conversation. Uh, Let me tell you one thing that is still hard. That is not something that popped up in in people's minds, in companies' minds, just because of AI. It has been always hard for centuries, for decades, and that is change. People resist change in general, especially when things are running fine. The mindset is, hey, it's working fine. Why are you even going and poking and asking and prodding to change something, right? But that is the job of leaders. Just because something is running well does not mean there is another way to make it better. If you conform and accept what the
Mm,
default standards, what the defaults are, then there is no growth from there. I mean, there are some philosophies that are really personal to me. One is continuous learning, and another is Kaizen, another is proactive mindset. So it doesn't matter. I have managed several teams, including core technical teams to
yeah,
management teams. And now, at the as the overall leader for infrastructure operations, I have a mix of juniors, people starting their careers as help desk, their first foray into their job, to architects, to directors, to leaders, VPs, like people who have been at it for years, and dealing with different kind of uh, challenges altogether. But every group, every team that I manage, all hundreds of them, they always, the yearly expectations that all companies have, what you expect from your members, they have they all have the same set of expectations that gets rolled down from me. This continuous learning
yeah,
mindset, that continuous, like, I mean, it's a word, Kaizen, that is something that I picked up. It's a Japanese word that I heard for the first time 20 years ago or so. And then it felt like, it's so much resonates with what my mind. Sometimes it's really fun to find a single word that can distill your whole mindset, what you're thinking, into a single word. It makes it so much fun. End up being product. And this is something that I always push my teams. It doesn't matter. Sometimes, they might not like the push, but when you see the end results, I have seen cases where people came back and said, hey, I was resisting this, but now I see the value on it. So, leaders need to remain strong. You need to have that visionary thinking, the end goal, and provide that support for your members to get there. And that ties up to the hard thing that you are asking before. It is the resistance to change. There are some who take it to it on day one. There are some who need some, you know, coddling, some explanations on why that is the right way. Some just needs to listen. Like, we have. I work with veterans from time to time. I love their mindset. I love that training that's instilled. Like, do this, they do that because they understand. Just like kids should understand that, if parents say something,
They
they're doing
should.
bad. They need like, hey, you need to, yeah, sorry. I kind of understand. I know it's a, but that's what I tell my son or my daughter. Like, it might not make sense, but stay on it, and you will see why I'm saying something like that.
Thank you.
And with AI is a magnifier. AI is just not a change agent. AI just magnifies everything that you have. I mean, a process that's working fine for 2 decades based on whatever data, especially in big corporations, or even something that is built recently, if you don't have a governance, if you don't have a data provenance model built in from day one, sometimes what might be working on your regular environment blows up when you are try to look at it with the AI lens. So one of the things I'm pretty sure every leader out there working on AI initiatives would see is you just can't go and apply and enhance it with AI. You need to go and dismantle what is out there
Mm.
to build it into such a strong data foundation that when you eventually leverage AI, you are going to have a stronger solution out there.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I really, and this is, I wish I could talk to you forever. Before we start running, we are running out of time. I have to hear from you. Is there anything you want to share with our audience as we begin to wrap up?
I think you were breaking up, Alex. What did you say? One second. Can you repeat
Is
that?
there anything you'd like to share with our audience as we begin to wrap up?
What I would say is believe in yourself. Don't wait for someone to come and tell you to believe or teach you to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. For senior leaders, that gut feeling, that doesn't happen overnight. Learn to trust it. That's years of
Mm.
experience, failures, and successes distilled into giving you the direction. Learn to take risks. Sometimes we need to take risks. Uh, don't wait for the perfect solution or perfect reasoning to solve a problem. I recently came across this Colin Powell's 40-70 rule that is so applicable in this day and age. And again, for leaders, I mean, the one thing that I live by is treat others like you would love to be treated. Lead by example. Those are things that that are going to be the de facto standards for humanity to thrive in this era of AI. So I think pretty much that covers what I wanted to say.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for everything you shared today, for your words of wisdom, for your stories, for the passion that you've communicated. Everyone, if you've caught anything, which I know you have from this episode, please do click the like. Make sure you share it and put something in the comment. I'd like to hear what's sitting on your heart right now. Miss Siri, no, stop. Sorry, my computer's turned on. No. So
No,
I
I
just
used
messed
to
around.
apologize in the past whenever Siri used to come up again. That is, I think, maybe maturity, and that is maybe adapting. I used to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your phone rang," and then it took me a while to realize why am I apologizing. Like I said before, you and I came first before this technology came about. So, adapt. Oh, the another thing, my favorite thing, in addition to IQ and EQ, this era of generation, this era of leaders need to have AQ, the adaptability quotient. That's the only way forward. And people need to learn to adapt to Siris and Alexes out there as well.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. And all of you, thank you so much, our audience. it's so even weird calling you an audience because that makes me feel like you're not engaged and participating, and you are. Again, because of you and your engagement, we are one of the top podcasts in the world. Thank you so much. As always, I encourage all of you, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving. See you. Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal with Alex Tremble. I invite you to follow The Executive Appeal wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me, your host, Alex Tremble, across all socials or via email for exclusive webinars, courses, and speaking engagements on continued topics of executive leadership. So until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving.